Greetings, fellow gamers. Mr. Griff here with another how-to sort of video. As you can see, I am wounded, and I'm going to see how long it takes to heal while you're wounded. There's never anything in here. But, anyway, like I said, as you can see, I'm wounded. Turn off that light real quick. As you can see, I am wounded. And if you go into status, click on the wound, it says wounded arm. Traumatic arm is quite dangerous. If the movement is severe, the wound will bleed. Have a worse chance than ever. Alright, the grammar's a little weird, but basically what I'm assuming that means is if I was to go chop a tree right now, too many times it would start bleeding and I'd need to bandage. When a wound is affected, the red gauge will appear. Okay, blah, 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 blah. If the gauge is filled up, the wound will open and get worse. Speed gauge can be reduced if the player performs first aid. Okay, so I'm going to guess that since it says this bandage here says 3 hours, that's going to take 3 hours in-game. I'm willing to bet that this is going to take, excuse me, extremely longer than that without bandaging it. So, as you can see, it's been about 3 hours now. It says the recovery time is 3 hours if you use a bandage. It's been about 3 hours and it's barely even into the bar. As you can see, the bar right here is barely moved at all. And it is 10:08. I think it was like 7 something, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, we're close enough to 3 hours to know that it's not going to heal in 3 hours. So, now we see how long it's going to last, or how long it's going to take past 3 hours. Apparently it was a mistake to log off and come back in. I saved it right where I was, which is about halfway through the wounded. And as you can see, we're at 15:30. We started at 7 something, or whatever. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and bandage this. I'm going to say it's going to take a long time. And we're going to see if bandaging is actually worth it. Now we got status, wounded, affected by fall. It says recover time 3 hours. Now it said that before, but we didn't do nothing and it took way more than 3 hours. So now we've bandaged. Let's see how long it takes. We're at 15:45. My guess is it's going to be about 3 hours. Well, we're almost at the end of the first bandage cycle. So, what have we learned so far? Obviously, it's going to heal within 3 hours. If you bandage it. Now, I don't know if there's a stage after wounded. Maybe it's slightly wounded. I know it's severely wounded, then wounded, then slightly wounded, and then I think you're done. So I think there's one more after this. Alright, now it says slightly wounded, self-healing. Alright, let's go back in and status, self-healing, fall. It says in 1 game hour, so I have to apply another bandage. So the first bandage was for 3 hours, second bandage is for an hour. And we'll see what happens at the end of this one. Oh, and one other thing I'd like to point out is that now, as you can see down over here, I am healing. So I'll have to look at the tape to find out exactly when that happened, but I'm guessing it was about the time that this turned to slightly wounded. But yeah, as you can see, it is almost done already because it's only been 30 minutes. It's a little over half. That's a little over half. That's about right. So yeah, another confirmation on what I already was pretty sure about the healing. Like I said, at first I was confused as well. So, and the ambient noise in this game, I have to give them kudos for. It gets me almost every time. I hear people talking in the background, hear doors opening and shutting. It's crazy, but it's great. I love it. First couple times I heard it, I actually stopped, took my headphones off, and went to the door. Because I thought somebody, like, I don't know, pushed at my door or something. It was funny. And then when I figured out what it was, I had a good laugh. So, and I believe this will be the last stage. And I'll be completely good to go. There you go. No bad status effects. So, what have we learned? Well, we have learned that if you get injured and it is severely wounded, chances are you'll be bleeding. You need to bandage immediately. If you have very low hit points, don't bother bandaging because you won't get the bandage effect on quick enough before you'll bleed to death. So you'll just waste a bandage. So what you want to do is just go ahead and die. When you're bleeding out and you have very little hit points, if you have at least half hit points, go ahead and bandage because you'll stop the bleeding before you die. But that's only on severely bleeding or severely wounded bleeding. So when you put the bandage on, you'll have a bleeding timer that is going for a little while. I think it takes about 10 to 15 minutes, something like that in game time. And then you stop bleeding. You'll be losing health during that time. That's why I say you have to have at least half, because you'll be losing health as you're putting the bandage on and after the bleeding effect wears off. So you want to have over half health if you're going to bandage while you're severely injured. Anyway, after you put the bandage on a severely wounded bleeding wound, it's going to take 3 hours for that to heal with the bandage applied. That's 3 in-game hours. Then it'll downgrade to wounded, which you'll have to apply another bandage, and that'll be 3 hours. That in-game time you'll be able to heal in. And after that, you apply another bandage to your slightly wounded, and that only takes an hour. So altogether, from severely wounded, there's 3 hours. There's wounded, another 3 hours. And then there's slightly wounded for an hour. So altogether you have 7 hours if you have 3 bandages. So you have to have 3 bandages in order to heal in 7 hours. That is the fastest that you can heal, is 7 hours if you're severely wounded. So, moving on to the next ailments. I hope this has been helpful, and please check out some of my other how-to videos on Mist Survival. Have a good one.